Hello, it's Lois here from Lois and Morgana Davidson Art. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm thinking about starting up some paint mixing experiments again now that we're past Christmas and New Year. So I thought I'd start that off by having a look and reminding myself of a demo that I posted back in the summer, which is one of my favourites, where I showed you how I really easily mixed up hundreds of different subtle and nuanced landscape greens, greys and browns, just from a few very simple colours. Beginners especially can find it really difficult mixing greens. I know I struggled when I first started out, but it's actually a lot easier than you think. And of course, greens are going to be very different depending on where in the world you live, what your climate is. And so watching this demo hopefully will give you some ideas as to the kinds of colours to choose to mix the particular greens that you're looking to use to represent your landscape. So here's the demo, and I'll be back sometime next week with some brand new colour mixing experiments that I hope you'll find equally as interesting as these greens. Hi and welcome to Lois and Morgana Davidson Art. Today I'm going to be looking at mixing greens. Mixing landscape greens in particular is quite a thorny subject. For some reason it seems to be quite a difficult thing to actually do, to get natural looking greens that work well in landscapes rather than looking sort of lurid and too vivid. Most pre-mixed greens that we can buy are sort of fairly sort of bright or a little bit too intense and need some modification, but we can mix really good landscape greens. We can mix an amazing range just using some very simple colours, and I think from experience what I think I need from a landscape green, what I'm looking for, is something sort of natural and earthy, but with the ability to be able to sort of light it up if I need to for some sort of sunny highlights. But mostly they're going to be quite subdued and muted greens, tending towards maybe the brown or the grey in a lot of cases. So this week I've mixed literally hundreds of varying shades of landscape greens, including quite a few sort of that are more brown and more grey. But I think that's a necessary part of this mixing process, to find browns and greens that go well together and that are harmonious. And if we use the same basic colours to mix our greens from, they will mostly tend to look harmonious in our painting. So hopefully I'll give you some ideas now for experimenting with mixing your own greens, which I think you'll find is a lot easier than you think if you sort of bear a few simple principles in mind. I've been swatching mine out on the backs of old paintings at 1/4 imperial size. So what I've been doing is collating my green swatches in this A3 Sea White of Brighton mixed media sketchbook. So I've just glued the swatch sheets into here, and eventually I should build up a really interesting record of all sorts of just slight variations of different colours, which is really useful for landscape painting. So this first page is where I have mixed all my greens from using just ultramarine blue. So ultramarine blue has been my base colour, and going from left to right, the column on the left I have mixed ultramarine blue with raw sienna in differing amounts. Next one along I've mixed it with burnt sienna, and then in the middle I've mixed ultramarine blue with yellow ochre, and then the second to last I've mixed it with cad yellow, and the last one on the right I've mixed it with lemon yellow. And you can see the difference actually between the colours that I get mixing with the earth colours, the raw sienna, the burnt sienna and the yellow ochre, is very different to the colours that I get, the greens that I get from mixing with the cad yellow and the lemon yellow. The greens that have been mixed with the earthy colours are much warmer, they're much subtler, they're really lovely greens, a lot of them with very brownish tones. and I'd be happy with using them in any of my landscape paintings, depending on the season I wanted to paint, etc., etc. The ones with cad yellow, they're quite warm too, but they're a little bit brighter, as you'd expect from using a bright yellow, but still warm, still subtle. And of course, all those colours are basically warm colours that we've used to mix. But as soon as you introduce a cool colour, and lemon yellow is a cool yellow, you get a very different range of colours. They're quite sort of sharp, almost pastel in some cases, but very different from the others. And so that was an interesting result. Now here's my second sheet of swatches, and this time I've used exactly the same mixing colours, but my base blue has been cobalt blue. So on the left, cobalt blue mixed with raw sienna, then burnt sienna, then yellow ochre, then cad yellow, and lastly on the right with lemon yellow. And I've had very similar results, but completely different colours or hues. Really beautiful, much more subtle. But then those cooler greens on the right from the lemon yellow are really quite sort of startling, quite strong, very interesting colours. So again, another interesting experiment. So now I'll show you how I mix this huge range of colours, and it's not rocket science, it's really simple. It's just a matter of deciding on a base colour, and for this one I have sped my swatching up. I'm not as fast as this in real life, but almost, but not quite. So I'm using Payne's Grey as my base colour, and here on the left, as with the other ones, I'm mixing my Payne's Grey with water and varying amounts of raw sienna, and you can see that with the Payne's Grey I'm getting these really sort of quite dark, quite earthy, almost sort of muddy greeny browns, but much more tending to the green side rather than the brown side. But if I mix with my Payne's Grey with burnt sienna, just about all of my swatches are turning out to be quite brown, quite a sort of reddish brown, as you'd expect from burnt sienna. I'd imagine that if I added some raw sienna into this, I would get stronger greens, but I'm trying this as just a single colour added to the base colour for this experiment. And as it is, those greens are really browns are really beautifully compatible with the other colours, as you'll see as I swatch them out. So this time it's Payne's Grey with yellow ochre. Again, they look a lot browner on the screen than they are, but we've got some really beautiful, subtle, deep olive colours coming through here. Sort of really beautiful, beautiful shades and tones. And the more yellow ochre you add, the warmer these greens become, the more sort of mossy or lichen greens. And now finally, using cad yellow, I didn't mix with lemon yellow this time, but you could try that yourself. I'm sure lemon yellow will yield some wonderful results mixed with Payne's Grey. But look at some of these colours, they're so subtle, they're so beautiful. I think very often when we're out in a landscape, if we really look at it carefully with an artist's eye, instead of a preconceived eye, we will see that the greens around us, especially in the UK, are often very muted, more sort of very strong sort of brownish tones to them, or yellowish tones, depending on the time of year. And of course, as I live in the UK, that's why I'm focusing on mixing this kind of range of muted earthy greens, because that suits the style of painting and the landscapes that I paint. But of course, if you live in warmer climes, then I'd suggest using some brighter blues and maybe brighter yellows. I would suggest that you try mixing with a Prussian blue or a cerulean blue, maybe even a Windsor blue, and then see what sort of of colour ranges you get from those. And then when you sort of happen upon the colours that you like and that you think suit your local landscape, then you're pretty much onto a winner really, and you probably never need to buy pre-mixed greens ever again. As you can see, I've literally mixed hundreds of really elegant, beautiful, harmonious shades just using a few simple colours, and I could have mixed more, but I just thought this would give you a really good idea of how fulfilling and fun it can be to experiment and explore colour in this way. Well, I hope that was helpful. Please let me know in the comments what you think, whether you mix your own greens or whether you struggle with mixing them. And let me know if you have a go at something similar to this and what you think of the range of colours that you get. So thank you so much for watching. Please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much to everyone that supports us on Patreon. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And welcome to our new patrons. It's lovely to see you there. Thank you so much for signing up. And if you'd like to support the channel, then please follow the links below to either Morgana's Patreon page or to mine. Many thanks. Take care and have a great week.